Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is Talking Music Live. Today on the show, we have Chip from Pittsburgh Rock band Chip and the Charge Ups. How you doing, Chip?
Doing great, Randy. How are you?
Good, good. Um, I just wanted to do an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Recently, in the music news over the past couple months, there's been some articles wrote about bands using backing tracks and pre-recorded music live in their concerts. Um, Kiss has been mentioned, Motley Crue, and most recently there was a Twitter war that I read about on Blabbermouth between Eddie Trunk, Sebastian Bach, and Falling in Reverse. And what it was Falling in Reverse had to cancel a concert because they misplaced their laptops that had all the backing tracks for the show. So after I read that, I was on Facebook and I saw Chip posted something about using backing tracks. So I wanted to reach out to him and have a discussion about it today on the show. So, Chip, you want to just mention a little bit what you put on your post?
Sure, sure. I would like to preface the conversation though by saying, I am a fan of using tracks. I'm not here to troll anyone using tracks. I think anytime that you start talking about tracks, it's a very sensitive topic. It's something where if you mention one disadvantage of them, people who use them tend to get sensitive about it, think you're trolling them, or call you an old person telling people to get off your lawn. That is not the case here. So basically, what I was saying was just kind of dipping into the debate myself. I think using the technology we have available to us is absolutely cool. We should do it. We have great things both for performing live and recording that musicians of the past didn't have. So we should absolutely make use of the technological gifts that we have. My point, though, is that I think there's a line where you can step over it. And, I use the analogy of the ornaments in the tree. If your tracks are your ornaments, maybe there's an important sample in a song or some cool, electronic percussion thing you have going on, or even backing vocals that kind of fill things out, or maybe in the studio the guitar player also played the keyboard parts and he or she can't do them both live, so have one of them played by the tracks. Those type of things are definitely cool. Anything that enhances the audience's experience, I'm all about that, because a live performance, a music performance, really any entertaining performance should be something that the audience enjoys and doesn't walk away picking apart saying the guitar sounded out of tune, or the vocalist missed some notes, or whatever. Make it a great experience for your fans. But I think the problem comes in that what we're seeing a lot of is that the uh, a lot of musicians are taking it a bit too far, and instead of using the tracks as ornaments, they're using the tracks as the tree, and then the real musicians are the ornaments where they're barely playing. I've seen bands perform where the singer is running around totally out of breath, and you hear his out of breath vocal performance mixed in with a pre-recorded vocal. And I just think that's a bad look. It's just like, okay, are you a gymnast or a musician? You can certainly do both. You can be entertaining, but if your priority is running around the stage so hard that you can't even sing because you're out of breath, I think it's a bad look, and it actually detracts from the experience that the fan gets. So my point is, yes, tracks are cool. We should use and investigate at least the technology we have available for us, but let's try not to cross that line where we're turning into karaoke or a dance recital or a movie. Live music is beautiful because it's music performed live by real musicians. And that's not saying it can't be enhanced, but in my opinion, there's definitely a line where you're cheating your fans by not giving them the real deal.
And with like the backing tracks or the pre-recorded tracks, you lock yourself into that song. You can't improvise or anything.
Right, right. Yeah, and and some fans of tracks will rightly say, "Well, you got to be, a better musician. You got to be more attentive because you can't just go, "Hey guys, let's do the intro one more repetition through because Bobby missed his cue." You can't do that. You got to be accurate. Um, so I can't disagree with that, but also at the same time there is a certain magic in improvisation, and that's one of those things where it's a subjective thing, and I agree with people on both sides of that debate.
And with the laptops missing, you should be able to play your instruments or improvise and try maybe an acoustic set or something different where you're not just canceling the show. The show must go on.
Right. Yeah, well, I'll talk about a couple of different things there. This summer, 2 weekends in a row, I saw bands where they had computer laptop meltdowns, and they had a very difficult time recovering from it. One was a local band playing a local music event. One was a national band playing to 17,000 people at Star Lake Amphitheater right outside of Pittsburgh. So, both of them were like very awkward and saying, "Oh, our laptop crashed. Give us a minute." And they didn't know how to fill in that space. So I think it's important that if you're going to use tracks, that you're prepared for things to go down. I mean, if you think about all the wired and wireless connections that have to succeed for a concert to go on, from the guitar into the pedal board into the amp that gets mic'd by a speaker, well, also the stuff that's plugged in, all those cables, and for every instrument, there's a lot of things that have to go right for a concert to succeed. And the more things that you have, the more chances that are something's going to go wrong. So I think as musicians, all of us, whether we use tracks or we just play our instruments, really just need to be prepared to recover from equipment malfunctions. And that's true for someone playing an acoustic guitar by themselves in a solo performance versus a full band using tracks. If those tracks go down, you shouldn't make your audience uncomfortable. You shouldn't make your audience wait and get impatient. You should be able to recover and play the song without tracks. It may not have everything in it. You may be missing a sample or some percussion or whatever, but you should be able to give a reasonable facsimile of your song while the laptop's rebooting for the next one. Um, and that's my feeling of that. Try to make it as transparent to the audience, or not even as transparent, as invisible to the audience as possible. If your laptop goes down and you need to play a song without tracks, do it, don't mention it, and the audience may not even notice. That national band, they ended up playing a song without tracks, and they sounded fine. They sounded fine without them, but before they played it, after about a 4-minute awkward silence and the singer going back and forth between talking to the crowd and then asking if the computer was rebooted, he said, "Oh, well, we're badasses. We can play without the tracks." Well, if you can play without the tracks, that doesn't necessarily make you a badass. That means you kind of meet the minimum standard for being a performer on a stage and getting paid for it. So, when using tracks, understand that things are going to go wrong, and you got to be able to play without tracks. Even if you do say, "You know what, guys, we are going to do something special for you tonight. We are going to do an all acoustic version of this song. We've never done this before, but this is special because you're a beautiful crowd and this is just for you." And bam, you turned a tragedy into something that might be super cool. But, it's that awkward like, oh, hold on, everybody, our laptop's rebooting, that, kind of diminishes the fan experience and makes a lot of people justifiably um, wary of bands using tracks.
Okay. Uh, I'm gonna talk about, there are bands I have on my show that use tracks and stuff. I love all the bands and the bands that use tracks. On another point, back in the day, you know, when there's extra songs, extra instruments and everything on an album back in the day, and when we used to go see them live, they wouldn't have all that extra stuff because they didn't have backing tracks. And that kind of like made the performance raw, different
Mhm,
than what you heard on the album. It made it more live feeling.
mhm.
What's your take
Yeah,
on
for
that?
sure. And there's a beauty to that. There's a beauty in imperfection, and there's a beauty in perfection. So, I think it's important for each artist to decide what's right for them, and more importantly, what's right for their fans. And it's cool to use either. As long as it's not the tree. It's the ornaments on the tree. You, as a musician, you got to be the tree. You got to be that solid foundation that can still be beautiful with or without ornaments.
And with the laptop thing failing, you have to improvise in that situation. I'm gonna give you an example. I went and saw the band live. It was like back in like 1995, and they were starting the second leg of their tour, and their drummer got stuck up in the air because there was a snowstorm. So for that show, they were headlining. So they went and got a local musician, local drummer, and they put them up on stage and they played some of the songs that the drummer knew and they knew. They played like some Jimi Hendrix and stuff, and they also played some acoustic stuff because it was right after their unplugged live special. So in that scenario, you just have to improvise and do something so the show goes forward.
Yeah, the show must go on.
Do you have any stories like that happened like at a show that you went to?
Where the show went on, or
Yeah,
where
they improvised, something happened, a band member didn't show up, they grabbed somebody and came up on stage and jammed?
I can think of a lot of instances where a guitarist breaks a string, or for instance, early on for us in Chip and the Charge Ups, Melina's the jack of her bass came out of the body, and she was prepared. She had a backup bass, but instead of having um, an awkward silence, and wait a minute, everybody, Melina got to change basses and make sure it's in tune. It's like, all right, let me introduce you to our drummer, Jeff DePerna. Hit a drum solo for these people, Jeff. And then 90-second drum solo, easy to do. By the time he finished that 90 seconds, Melina had her spare bass on, tuned up, ready to roll. So yeah, I mean, you at
Is
the
that
very
something that
least.
you have planned out? Like, hey, if somebody breaks a string, this is what we're gonna do?
I don't think we planned that out, but I think it's I don't know. Sometimes it's one of those things where, as a band and having a friendship and a chemistry, you just you kind of make an audible at the line of scrimmage, and you're connected enough with your people that they know what's going on, and they can take it from there.
Okay. Um, you got anything else more to discuss on this subject or
Oh man, I could talk on it all day, but I think we hit the major points. My major thing is tracks or no tracks. Whatever it takes to deliver a fan experience, a great fan experience. Absolutely nothing wrong with using tracks, but two words of advice, not as a musician, but as a fan. I mean, I love going to concerts. I love music first, and I'm a musician second. So I love music. I'm a big fan. Make sure that any technical mishaps are invisible to your fan base. We want to continue rocking out, and be prepared because things go wrong. And I would bet that computers have more problems than your typical high quality music instrument. So if you're going to use tracks, things will go wrong at some point.
Okay. Where can we get a hold of you, Chip? Check out your band and stuff.
You can find Chip and the Charge Ups on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so forth. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we're at the Charge Ups, and YouTube, we're youtube.com/Chip the Charge Ups. One thing that people can do is go to our website, which is thechargeups.com, and they can link to whatever their choice of social media is to find us from there. So that might be a good jumping off point for everyone.
Okay. Do you have any shows coming up for the rest of the year?
We do. We have a couple of real exciting October shows coming up. We are playing on October 15th at the Squirrel Hill Sports Bar in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with some good friends of ours, Anxiety at Best. Also on that bill is Atlas and Lilith. That should be a really fun show. And then an even bigger one the following Saturday, October 22nd, we are going to be playing with our good buds Neverwake for the return of their annual Sleepwalker Ball. And that's at the Hard Rock Cafe, also in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Thanks for coming on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Um, I'd just like to say thank you to all the folks that have tuned in, both longtime Charge Ups fans and maybe new folks who've discovered us from your platform, and hope to see all